All right, so if you guys have been following me for a while, you guys know that I'm a huge fan of Total Gyms and the Weider Ultimate Bodyworks, like the Total Gym knockoff. And I thought this is a relevant kind of point to kind of cover the comparisons of the different models and which one you guys should choose. Maybe you're choosing to pick one out for the first time, or you're considering maybe upgrading to a certain model. And I thought this is, again, relevant to discuss because the one that I have been recommending on my channel has been kind of sold out. So people have been asking me, hey, what's the second best, or what's some other options? Or people are just kind of considering, is it worth getting this one versus getting a more expensive one if you got more money? And I thought I'd give my 2 cents about it. I mean, I considered upgrading like a month or 2 months ago. I mean, I'll touch on that briefly too. But so I wanted to kind of compare the models. I'll compare the models that are available on Amazon. I'll compare the models that are available on the actual Total Gym website in a second, and some important things to consider. I'll also throw in some important ways to kind of save money on this. If you guys listen into this video, I'll kind of include that too. I'll also put links to all these things down below as well. You guys can see that down below as far as which ones I think are available and good recommendations. So a couple things to kind of think about right off the bat, in some sort of, and kind of a numerical order. The very first thing I can touch on very briefly is, are you actually going to use this stuff? So be real if you're about yourself, if you're going to use it. A lot of fitness equipment gets bought and purchased and never gets used. In fact, the vast majority of it gets purchased and never is used. So whether that's you or not, consider that. So what you can also consider is, maybe you don't know if you really like this or not. And I've said this in previous videos. This makes the case why I've always recommended getting the cheaper WeiderWorks model initially, because even if you made that initial investment and either you don't like it, you can always just not use it, sell it or whatever. It was $100 or something lost, that's it. If you want to get more, you can always upgrade. Again, even sell this too. Probably pretty easy to sell nowadays. So that's something else. So I would say starts cheaper if you're considering, knowing yourself that either you may or might, just possibly might not use it, or if you might not enjoy it, might not like it. Second thing that's huge is, and this is kind of, well, these part 2 and 3 is kind of up for debate here, but I'll just say, well, first thing is, I'll talk about weight. Always check these weights. We'll go over this a little bit, but you can look at different models and you'll see, especially on Amazon, you can check out the weight limit. Okay, so I'll talk about these a little bit, where, the cheapest Total Gym you can get, this Apex G1, has a pretty good weight limit of about 300 pounds from what it says. Okay, compared to the Ultimate Bodyworks, the weight limit is at 250. Now I use I'm like 210-ish. If the highest I'm getting in a particular year might be 220, I get down maybe 200. I feel like this thing is fine. Does it wobble? People talk about like these cheaper ones maybe wobbling. If you see me in the videos, yeah, it shakes. I'll actually compare the width distance. This actually has a bigger width than some of the other ones, and I remeasured this. This width is at 27.5 width, but it is factoring in these top bars, these pull-up bars, as the width. But even that, I measured the width down here and it was still wider than the width on these cheaper Total Gym models. So I'm going to assume, and I've heard this too with Total Gyms, I don't care what model you get, unless it's the more really expensive ones, there's going to be a little bit of a wiggle and wobble to them. Part of that, just, I mean, you can control that, I think, to a certain extent, but kind of keep that in mind. But my main thing is, we'll touch on that, is weight. Don't buy something that, obviously, check the weight is that point. You don't want to get something and know you can't fit it. But I can tell you that I think this is fine. I don't mind like the little movement. I don't even really notice it, to be honest with you. That's probably somewhat subjective. The next thing is, which is huge, is the close, second, third here, is availability. So clicking on Ultimate Bodyworks, I always want to call it something different. These are sold out now, and they were sold out fairly recently. And before they were sold out, they were up to like $160 in price. They used to be, before this whole thing happened, that the going price was like $129 or whatever. So they've gradually kind of gone up in price. My model looks a little bit different, but it's exactly the same. The key features, again, what I like about this is definitely the price. You get a lot of just good attachments for what you get. It's held up, as far as my opinion. It's got tons of really good reviews. I mean, the reviews speak for themselves. There's tons of reviews talking about how people that had Total Gyms and went to this, or people that got this first and are kind of wondering about the sacrifice in price, and everyone's been really happy with it. The biggest thing though is going to be, the $250 price tag. Will this hold up forever? I give mine a lot of use. What's worn is maybe this fabric edging kind of wears off. A lot of things can be replaced and fixed in my opinion, but otherwise I can't see this thing really breaking anytime soon. Not saying that won't happen, but again, it's pretty affordable, easy price point. Now, since it's not affordable, you might want to consider the idea that, you know, in my opinion, based on what I say and what I said before about considering, you know, getting an early price point, considering those things, I would be recommend to some people just buy it if it's available somewhere used, or it's not necessarily used but new, but a little bit more, like 174, even 183. It might be worth it with the relatively, you know, cheap shipping costs. So I might even consider that, knowing I'm paying more just for the availability. That's something to kind of consider. Now, when you start, I'll go into the actual Total Gym website in a second, but if you look at the actual Total Gym models, they're kind of weird. It's like they have so many different little options, and obviously that's for, you know, it's cool to give you all these options, but it's kind of annoying because there's just too much to choose from. But you can see on Amazon, they have their G1, their G3, and then their G5. It goes from 300 to 400 to 500. And I'll jump ahead here, but the Total Gym's website, then they have essentially like their G6, if you want to call it that, is their Total Gym Supreme, which starts at 600. All right, and since we're here, just glance at this. Now this is $600, very similar to this base model G1. This is 300. Granted, it's only got 6 levels, but the point is, this one can handle 300 pounds. This one's, you know, rated at 275. So just because they're more expensive doesn't mean it's going to hold more weight. So pay close attention to that. Right away at this one, if I look at just the cheaper option, like this is available. I'm not saying this is a bad option either. It's the great selling point of Total Gyms is the fact that they fold up like this, whereas the Ultimate Bodyworks does not fold up. It'll fold flat. It doesn't fold and collapse like this. So that is huge. And the fact that this can support 300 pounds is also great. It doesn't have the squat, the squat little stand here, which kind of stinks. And with these holes here, maybe you can buy the add-on. And some people think the squat stand isn't that adequate. I've showed some exercise that you can do with them. It's up to you if you think, well, maybe I'll just do my squats with something else, my legs with something else, or at least the pressing with legs with something else. But you do have the shoulder attachment that can hook down here, so that's, you know, a benefit that you can still get those perks from that as well. Another unique feature that Total Gyms have on most of their models is this little middle buoy, little cable attachment right here, right in the center. So that's kind of cool. So that's that one. Again, the great thing is check the just for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all this, but you can look at the distance and width, and you'll see, since I won't go back to this, it says this is 43 inches tall. The Weider Works says it's really high. I mean, it's got like almost 8. It's got pretty adequate settings. For me, this is honestly, I feel like I get just enough of a resistance on it. Also, keep in mind you got these little the bungees at the end here that are not on Total Gyms, but in some later Total Gyms you can actually add physical weight, so that's a bonus. But this says the height is 48. Now, when I measured it, it's counting the top bars of the pull-up bar, so it is not this. It's not the middle part of the bar that I would say is the true height when you raise this up all the way. But granted, I think it's still, you know, pretty adequate. I also won't talk about this too much too, but this distance and also the sled, you know, how big the sled is makes a big difference. Because if you have a really big sled, if you're really tall, you're going to be bottoming out and not going to have much flexibility in the Total Gym. I think this one in the Weider works totally good. I think you can see that this is a smaller sled. I'll show you some bigger ones in a second. But this one, on these lower models, I like how it's shorter. Now, when you start getting into this G5 and G3, you can see they add the squat stands in there. They still got the middle kind of cable. They add these little bars in here. So you got these little bar attachments to kind of, I'll show you a picture, but you basically would like hold on to them if you're squatting, you'd kind of hold on to those bars. I don't think it's not a huge bonus, but this gives you 10 levels now. Again, this one supports up to 375 pounds for this G5. So if you're someone who's a bigger person, you know, this might be worth it just to kind of support the weight. Again, it folds up. And it's available, which is another huge thing. This G3, again, you're looking at this, the kind of the next level up from this. It adds 2 more levels. This, to me, the only thing is I wouldn't I mean, I honestly, between these two, this one and the Weider, I would pay just to get it new somewhere else if it wasn't in stock on Amazon, to pay a little bit more to get that extra height. I know this is taller than this one, and so that's kind of why. But again, you're sacrificing the foldability and stuff like that. This G3, the $400 one, you got the weight is at 300. Same thing as the last one. So the only real bonus you're kind of getting out of this is you're getting the squat stand. You're getting an extra 2 levels, which is kind of confusing because I don't want to spend too much time on this because you guys can kind of research this. But since we're talking about it, this is saying it's 43 inches tall. Let's see how big this one was. And this one also 43 inches. So really, I mean, what you're getting, this 8 levels, is just other little increments. It's still the same height. So again, it's more, you know, a little more flexible with stuff you can do, but otherwise the same height is still the same. So you kind of got to look for that. You're not really getting any taller with this. You're spending an extra, you know, $100 basically on those little perks right there. I just kind of pointed out. Sled lift height's the same. So now if we start jumping to the actual Total Gym websites, these are already pretty big jumps in prices. But now when you start getting into Total Gym world, you know, coming buying direct from their website, you know, they say all these. First off, the next round out is already out of stock, so this kind of cancels this one out. This $600 Total Gym Supreme, which, you know, it adds 12 levels of resistance. I think this is a little bit higher. Notice it took away some things, and their website goes really slow. I don't know if a lot of people are on it or because they do all these little cookies that are on here too. But I almost wish I'm not even gonna click on this. Actually, let's stop because it was loading too long. This is the thing I was gonna mention. How to save money on these Total Gyms. The biggest thing I can tell you is I have messed around with this. You might be saying, well, you never even play with these. I definitely play around with these a lot, from looking at different models and almost buying one. I almost got this Total Gym Fit. I think this is probably, if I had to pick a Total Gym, it would be the Total Gym Fit, no question. The XLS is pretty cool. You can find these used. I meant to say that in the beginning, is that obviously going back with price, check on like Facebook Marketplace and garage sales. These are huge, but again, now more than ever, people are actively seeking these things out. So you might get lucky, but I think other people are doing the same thing. So that would be the best option. I'm sure there's tons of people asking around that might have these in their basement that just aren't even using them. But the XLS, there's actually a good YouTube video. This guy's here, I'll link it down below. He compares these two models, the Total Gym Fit and the XLS. And he basically talks about how, you know, he talks about these things I discussed, where the distance on the actual frame is different. That essentially this had a longer frame, this had a wider little base to rest your back on, but the actual sled itself is longer, so that's gonna be somewhat limiting. It's obviously cheaper. The weight goes up a lot on these, so right away, if you're someone who's obese, and there's a lot of people either have disabilities, and I know there's people on this channel because they messaged me that have disabilities with certain things and are looking for something that is stable, that's more secure and kind of solid. I mean, right away, that's going to point you more towards, you know, this kind of market. If you're in that kind of morbidly obese category, then yeah, you're going to want something that's up here from 400 plus, you know, support. So that also means something. If someone's really old and kind of having some, it goes back to kind of disabilities to a certain extent, you want some more stability, then again, you could invest in that. So a big part of this is just your pocketbook, but how to save money. Sorry, I forgot to say this. The biggest way to kind of save money on this is there's a store by me, and there's national chains that sell fitness equipment. And what they do is, what happens is these people that buy Total Gyms and they have their free, you know, trials. I don't know if they're still carrying it. I didn't see it advertised, but they have their trial periods. And if you return the product back to them, they can't sell that same product as new. So they sell it to these other fitness distributors that sell like brand new fitness equipment, and it's marked as used when really it was never even used. It's basically like brand new. It's all kind of sealed up, everything's together, and it's, you know, all everything's essentially repackaged to make it look like it's brand new. And I saw a Total Gym Fit going for like $700. So basically you're buying a brand new Total Gym Fit for $700. That is the best deal you can do. I know they're out there and across the US. They do this across with different distributors and different companies that sell home fitness products. So I would check that out. Usually those companies that are doing that are doing like Craigslist ads to put that out there. So that would be the place to get these things at a discount and not full price. You'll save a lot of money, and I think that's a pretty good value. I mean, I still think they're making money off these things, but obviously they should. And then different attachments and things like that. So the biggest thing, like I said, is the affordability. Can you actually get a hold of it? Your weight is going to be huge. If it was me and you're someone in that, let's say you're 250 and below and your gym closed, if it was me, and if you, depending on your budget, if it was me again, like mine breaks tomorrow, it would be a tough call, but I couldn't jump in and pay this. I'll be honest with you guys, as much as as cool as this thing is, maybe that $700 one that I talked about, I don't know if I'd buy this for $1,000 because I don't like how it limits some of these features that this has. If this was just wholesale price at $1,000 over here, I think that's a better deal. This, I think, is the best Total Gym. That's my point. I just wished it was priced a little bit lower. So if my Weider Works broke tomorrow, would I go out and spend $1,500? I wouldn't, just personally, you know, with my own finances and stuff. I'd look for that opportunity. Maybe for $700, I might do it. But even then, you know, if I'm narrowing it down between these ones, I might go to one of these that are available, the G3, most likely, probably, in my opinion. And if not, I would get another Weider Body Works again, possibly just buying it, like I said, either wherever's available, maybe even used, but maybe even buying one off of the just whatever's available. So that's something to kind of consider. I'm just pointing right here again. I think this is worth it, the 183, 188, even up to 200 in my opinion, if the shipping's not bad. So somewhat of a long video. I just trying to make it informative and kind of cover all those bases. If you guys have more questions about any of these things and my opinions about the device itself, definitely let me know. I'll put the links down below. Again, always helpful if you guys kind of like and subscribe to the channel. It's always helpful. Any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below.